Suits or The Good Wife?
Suits, obviously.
Great answer. Cigarettes or gum?
Gum now, baby.
Gum. White House or Buckingham Palace?
White House, just because Buckingham Palace looks like it would take a really long time to mow.
Okay, fair enough.
A lot of upkeep.
Queen or the Queen?
The Queen.
Okay, good answer again. The Rock or Chris Rock?
That's an interesting question. I like them both.
Slip and slide or electric slide?
Electric slide. That's my generation.
Fantastic answer. And lastly, your last $5, buy a burger or buy a lottery ticket?
It depends on how good the burger is.
Wow, there's a guest host. As a matter of interest, Prince Harry and I are identical twins, separated at birth. Hard-hitting topics there. President Obama giving his first sit-down interview since leaving office. The former president giving that interview to His Royal Highness. Obama spoke quite a bit about himself, but he also took an indirect yet very clear shot at President Trump, blasting leaders, he says, are warping public discourse via social media.
The question, I think, really has to do with how do we harness this technology in a way that allows a multiplicity of voices, allows a diversity of views, but doesn't lead to a balkanization of our society, but rather continues to promote ways of finding common ground. And all of us in leadership have to find ways in which we can recreate a common space on the internet.
Wendy Osefo is an education professor. Wendy, putting aside the idea of a president talking to a prince about how it's the rest of us who are living in danger of living in a bubble, what do you think he was getting at here? Was it a shot at Trump, or was it a more general observation?
It was a more general observation. Right now, the current climate, not just in our country, but overseas as well, is one where everything is volatile, and people need to be mindful, especially those in power, of the decisions that they make. And that's what Obama was speaking to, and I think is a poignant point, especially right now.
Well, isn't there a danger, though, in world leaders, the establishment, the elite, saying everything would be better if we didn't have balkanized multiple voices? When the internet started, one of the great things it did was it freed people from the default setting of mainstream media, which is surely liberal. That's surely the bubble, isn't it?
It's not necessarily the bubble, and I wouldn't say that mainstream media is liberal. That's not true. Look at the network that we're on right here. So again, you know, when we try to make those type of narratives and we try to make those overarching statements, that exactly negates what he's trying to say there. You know, mainstream media at the end of the day has a level of responsibility, and our leaders, our elected officials, have a tantamount level of responsibility, and they need to make sure that everything they're doing and the policies that they're set forth is not just one that impacts their own bubble, but impacts all of us as citizens.
What about the idea that beyond the media, the default setting of our society now, by which I mean not just media, but motion pictures, churches, schools, the default setting of our society is essentially liberal. If you go to school, you'll learn essentially the liberal view on climate change. If you go to church, you'll get the liberal view on climate change. What's wrong with a balkanizing that just a little?
I reject that premise. I don't believe it's the liberal view. I actually think it's the popular view. And that's something that conservatives have to start to accept. It's not necessarily that there's a war against people who are conservative or who have right-leaning ideologies. It's more so that overall, when we look at issues, they tend to lean on the left side. And that's just the truth of the matter. We cannot negate the fact that the popular view often leans to the left. That does not negate, you know, individuals who are conservative by any means. And what's really important here, if I could just underscore this, is that Americans need allies. The United States needs allies. But the volatile behavior of President Trump makes that increasingly more difficult. So we need to start addressing that as well.
Well, we'll see who winds up sitting at in the third row at Prince Harry's wedding on that one, Wendy. The magazine Vanity Fair is positively begging Hilary Clinton not to run for president again. Take a look at this.
Time to start working on your sequel to your book, What Happened? What the hell happened?
Get someone on your tech staff to disable autofill on your iPhone so that typing an F doesn't become Form Exploratory Committee for 2020.
You know, on Anderson Cooper, you were telling him about alternate nostril breathing. You seem really adept. You should try teaching a class.
Take more photos in the woods. How else are you going to meet unsuspecting hikers?
Take up a new hobby in the new year. Volunteer work, knitting, improv comedy, literally anything that'll keep you from running again.
To finally put away your James Comey voodoo doll. Now, we all know you think that James Comey cost you the election, and he might have, but so did a handful of other things. It's a year later, and time to move on.
So cheers to you, Hillary Clinton.
Cheers to you, Hillary.
Cheers to you, Hillary Clinton.
I hope they didn't pay big money for those jokes. Wendy, liberals are going nuts over this. I mean, people are saying it's time to burn copies of Vanity Fair, that so-called progressives have no business telling an accomplished woman that she needs to take up knitting, that's sexist. But you do get the sense, though, that Democrats are moving on from Hillary.
Yeah, I think Democrats are moving on from Hillary. I think that the uproar came because we have individuals who ran for presidency like John McCain, like Mitt Romney. And, you know, we did not see this type of uproar for them to leave it. This is a woman that, yes, she did not win the vote. Yes, we know that she's not the president of the United States. But to use such language and say take up knitting, this is her life's work. She's the Secretary of State. She's the first female to run for office for a major political party. And then to say to take up knitting? No, she has built a body of work and she doesn't have to be president, but she can continue to extend her political realm.
Well, what's killed her? Is it the fact that in the midst of this book tour, Harvey Weinstein and Charlie Rose and Matt Lauer came along and recast her husband and their marriage in a new light? Is that part of the problem here?
I don't think that that necessarily killed her because she didn't win the vote. It didn't help her by any means, especially that photo going around of her and Harvey Weinstein looking very, very chummy and comfortable. That didn't help her. But again, to sit there and say that she should take up knitting when she has done a lot in the political realm it doesn't make any sense at all.
Do you regret that your party, Progressive Party, wants to shatter the glass ceiling, as Canada, Britain, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, on and on and on have done, but it chose the wife of the previous president? Isn't that a little bit... You say she's an accomplished woman?
She is.
Her main accomplishment is that she was the wife of the guy who held the job before.
You see, and that in itself is sexist, right? That's not her major accomplishment. She was the Secretary of State. She is the first woman to run on a major political party, and she got that vote. So that's not her major accomplishment, that she's the wife of Bill Clinton. By all means, no, she's done other things. Was she the best candidate for our party? No, she was not. However, to say that her major accomplishment was being a wife, that's what we talk about when we say sexism in the political sphere.
Okay, I stand reprimanded, Wendy. France